episode is sponsored by Reiz Tech, end-to-end IT solutions for your business growth.
Hello, everyone. Once again, we're on the Agile couches in this case, and we're visiting Reiz Tech today and having a conversation with Deividas, who's a front-end developer here and a team lead as well.
Yes.
And probably as a team lead, also it's important that we, sort of engage into a productive life cycle of ours. So that will be the topic for today: long-term productivity.
Yes, very interesting concept, long-term productivity. I mean, I guess in the IT sphere and maybe in the work sphere as a whole, there's this like powerful word productivity, right?
Yeah.
We always want to do stuff, like to improve, to like get our processes better, like develop better and stuff like that. And I was at the start of my career as well, like into it, like very want to do a lot, learn, program, it would take all of my free time. And then at some point, during the last year or so, like I started feeling the symptoms of burnout, which is
Yes.
probably quite common, at least as far as I do some research. Burnout is quite a common concept right now. So I started thinking about this idea of like, so we want to be productive, right? We want to create stuff, we want to program, we want to be on the cutting edge, right? But how should we manage that productivity to be able to expand it as long as possible? Because I think it often happens, like especially with big corporations, that you're excited, you do work, you try, you go for it, and then at some point you burn out. You need a lot of time to recover. So like,
You
what
reach
is that?
some sort of edge at some point.
Yeah.
So that's why probably the key word here is the long term, right? In other
Yeah.
words, sustainable.
Sustainable.
Because we can be productive if we wish. If we have a deadline we need to finish, deadlines are often very huge motivators for for productivity. But that's very temporary.
Yeah.
So so that's a long term. So how to sustain it throughout probably years, right? Sustain it personally and within a team. I'm guessing, right? That's
it's I guess it's complicated in a sense that especially like in development we work in sprints, and you're often like you try to achieve the sprint goal, and if you do, you're happy, and then you're on to another sprint goal, and oftentimes you push forward, you do a bit more, you work a bit longer hours, and then you achieve that sprint goal. But here's the problem: there's another sprint goal after that one. So like I guess the best way to make it sustainable is to realize it's probably a team effort from the whole team, as in from the developers who do the work, and then from the, I guess, management part to also help them maintain that, I guess, productivity for a long term. So what I mean is that both the person who feels the overwhelm and the amount of the work, that there's too much work, too much stuff, I need to hold back a bit. He needs to be able to communicate that. But in the same way, I think that management, that could be Scrum Masters, team leads, anyone from that role, should also try to create the environment where the person can share and would be able to say that. You could say that in theory, like we have the Agile and Scrum events that do that, like retrospectives, and we are able to talk. But it's hard to be able to be honest, I guess, in a corporate setting when the environment is not built on like trust between people, if that makes any sense. So like, for example, what I try to do with my one-on-ones, and probably not successful at times, but this is something I try to do, is like to firstly create the bond between, I guess, your coworkers, because in my mind, if there is a bond between people, then it's easier for you to say like, hey, like I'm overworked, I'm like feeling depressed, or like it's too hard, and then maybe I can help that person. But first there has to be that bond, and that is
in other words, now the famous term is you need to have this psychological safety within a team. To be sort of a confident in being vulnerable, right? So don't be afraid of show your vulnerability points. weakness and whatever.
Yeah, and
Takes, right?
it's probably hard to do, right, when you're in a big team, big corporation, and especially if you are like new to the environment and like
Yes.
new to this sphere, for example. And especially I think in IT this can be seen of you're working so much and you try to do it because you want to make a name, especially in the beginnings of your career. And this can be seen very often, I think, with juniors, and that you work until you're burnt out and then you change companies, right? Which is not good both for you probably because you're burnt out, and for the company because you lose a good prospect. So that's what I mean, like, and then IT, it's like it's super fast paced. You have to learn, you have to do stuff, and then how can we manage that? So that's the long-term productivity isn't how can I both produce good work in my daily work, how can I learn and keep up the pace with, I guess, the technologies that change, and then of course do that for a long time, and yeah, not get to the point of needing outside help and stuff like that.
So how to do it, right? You're raising the
That's
question
the main
yourself.
question. Yeah.
So that's the main question for today, I guess. And from the two angles, right? We sort of are talking about the team, but then we're also saying it's a personal matter as well, right? It's first of all personal matter, probably.
Yeah, of course.
So maybe we should split those two, right? So what should I do as an individual, and what can we do as a team? Where should I start? How should the team react? By the team, I mean everyone, including the leaders, and I mean everyone that's in a setting. So from personal perspective, then, right? How to get to the point to understand that I need this long-term productivity, and to find probably the balance for myself. Where am I productive, not for a temporary basis, but for a long term, right? Or what kind of mistakes to avoid, maybe, you have to share something here.
So to start off, I just want to emphasize, like, I'm no expert in this field. Like, I do try, to come up with ideas, and mainly, like, I think the point of this talk, at least for me personally, is to, I guess, raise questions and just to have an open discussion. That, like, this is real. I think, especially, like, as I said, like, in IT, it's very real with a fast paced, and obviously with the current culture, as far as, like, I see in, like, YouTube videos and, like, articles, it's about, like, personal growth. And it's often, like, said, like, you have to emphasize all the things outside of work, which is your mental health, like your physical health, connection with people, and then, like, learning and stuff like that. I think it's often talked, and you can find a lot of a lot of research on that, and like, we probably know what to do in that sense. I think it is also important to, like, talk from the management point of view as well. Like, for me as a developer and a team lead, I'm sort of in the both areas, and I think it is important for managers to also, like, help people do those things. So, for example, if you feel like the developer is showing symptoms of, like, not being as energetic, or, like, talking less, or, like, you can probably hear in their voice the tiredness that comes. So then it's probably your responsibility as well to, like, hey, how can I help and preemptively, like, do stuff. So I think that is important to also not forget, like, not to try and go and just
leave a person with his problems, right?
Yeah, and especially, like, I think it's very easy to then go and have that chat, like, oh, you're not developing as well, or, like, you're not as productive or not as talkative, like, but there are reasons for that most of the time. So, like, if you have people that do produce stuff, like, from the purity, I guess, from hard, like, they want to work hard, but then they have blockers, then how can I help that? There are people who don't want to learn and improve, of course, but we're not talking about those. So yeah, I think that's the two parts. Like, so you personally have to, I guess, firstly be cognitive of what is happening. Like, why are you feeling that way? Are you tired? Like, what could be the reason? and you should be able to talk about that not only in your personal life or like with your colleagues, but also with your management. And from the management side of view, I think it is important for them to be able to be talked to, a bit convoluted sentence, but basically so that you are someone that people can easily come to and then tell all of
So
these
the
parts.
trust that you were talking
the
about in the
trust.
beginning, right?
Exactly.
So that I'm not afraid to come with those kind of problems, right?
And probably the hardest part, like if you work in like because most of the time it's like the team leads and middle managers, they have to balance their team and then the I guess needs of the client and of the project itself. So it also like is a bit difficult because you have to battle both sides. Like you have to sometimes tell the clients that like, no, we cannot produce this, we cannot do this, it's like not in our scope and stuff like that. So it's a hard balance. And like I think like with many things in life, there is no set answer. Like there is no magical formula. I guess the only thing that you can try and do and just to be cognitive and try to keep that balance as much. So if you see that you're tipping in one side, maybe you should go to the other, something like that.
So basically, look for those limits of yourself first of all, and of a team, right? It's also actually very much related with Agile. It's sometimes forgotten that even there is even one of the principles in Agile that says that the team, one of the principles is that the team must, I don't remember by heart the sentence, right? But it more or less says that we are able to sustain our pace indefinitely or something like that, long term. So basically, how I read this principle is that we have a pace of work that we are able to do on and on and on and on, right? With probably small fluctuations, but we know our, sort of
the velocity.
We know our tops and bottoms, basically. So and we're fluctuating there, but more or less we're able to sustain the pace. So it's really much related with agility, and that's sometimes forgotten. That we think that agility is to make sure we get faster and faster and faster and faster and faster, right? Which is not the case. It's finding a point where you are fast, but you are able to maintain this pace. Otherwise, I mean, what's the point? At some point, you will drop, right? And that's not good. And then the whole point disappears, basically. All right. So we're talking about trust. We're talking about psychological safety. We're talking about being present. Finding your limits. But I'm just interested in you started by saying that for a year now you're exploring this topic because you had an experience. So what was the experience, and what maybe were the symptoms for you that sort of got you thinking about it in the first place? Because I believe noticing it's the first step. I don't want to make like bad conclusions, but it's sometimes if you have any kind of how they're called, addictions, right? The first thing is to understand you have it. First step. That's what psychologists are saying, right?
So I guess I should start out by saying I started like my, I guess, professional IT career 2 years ago here at Reiz. And I joined from the intern level and built myself. I think in like 7 months in, I then became a team lead, sort of like trainee, and then built up. And it's been 2 years.
That's fast.
That is fast. That is quite fast. I was lucky to have, of course, good mentors, be in a good company, which allows the, I guess, growth based on your pace. So like if you come in and you want to do fast, you want to try stuff, you want to go in and like participate in all sorts of events, like this talk, for example, just go for it, do it, like we're open to it. And I guess the problem with that is like I really liked I guess programming and IT, and obviously that's why I'm here. And I just dove in like head first and just as I said, at the beginning, you just go for it and just you program, you learn, you do it like more than like over hours and stuff like that, and because you're interested and then you're doing stuff, and of course with all of that comes a lot of anxiety and like stress, and especially stress, 'cause, like you're doing new things and they're like big and stuff, and this whole pace, like I just could not keep up. So I think a year ago there were some shifts, and for a time I was the only team lead and also like stressed with the project as my mentor left, and I just felt that I like shut down. Like the first symptoms were probably physical, so that's the burnout symptoms, when you get physical, like tiredness and like pains and like temperature rising and stuff like that, and then of course the psychological of, like I would remember I would like wait for the next day to come into work just to code and to learn, and I got excited, and then at some point I was like, I'm just dreading going, just like that sort of shift. Really, I could notice that very well, and just the drive just started dissipating, and my personal life of course suffered for it, and that's the reason I guess I started like thinking more of a, so then at the beginning of your career, you're often encouraged to do more and do extra, but then you burn out because you're doing way too much than you can handle. So then, what is the best, I guess, approach to it, and how could I then maintain it for a long time? So like, if my goal would have been like to be a mid-level developer in some time, and then you reach it, you obviously want to do a bit more, but then you cannot continue with that pace. So then how can you, I guess, produce and then not get to a point when like you have to shut down? Because I think my growth like stagnated for a while because I just couldn't physically
Yeah.
maintain that pace.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I just started raising these questions, and why I wanted to talk about it here, just so that maybe more people can also think about it, and if they do, they can share some insights as well. So I guess that's that. I don't know if that answered your question quite well, but
Yeah, I think you were quite explicit. Yeah. And if you have any comments, please give them to us. We're very interested into exploring that even further, probably.
yeah,
But then let's get more into the team dimension, right?
yeah,
So we talked a bit about trust, about the leader's role. What I want also to explore is to how we can help in the team to each other about it, right? Usually in the team, I mean, probably not usually. There's always, there could be very different setups in different companies, but you have
yeah,
probably a mix. You have some younger, employees, whether it's an engineer, whether it's whatever you're doing. Maybe, and then you have probably some seniors to be run the show and be more on
yeah,
top of everything. What is the roles then? We might say that maybe the juniors want to be as you were, fast and take a
yeah,
lot and make quick career and all of that, learn. Maybe it's a good thing, or should we should those mentors, maybe our senior ones, be the ones that also notice it and tell
yeah,
slow down, man. I mean,
definitely.
there is
Yeah,
nowhere to rush, you will get there. So what would be your sort of I don't know, observations here? How we can help each other in the team?
yeah, definitely. So again, I think that it's the job of like the whole team to, I guess at the end of the day, like what we are all doing here is just like we're working with people, and yeah, we're like programming and doing our skills based stuff, but at the end of the day, like most problems that you face are just some problem. Then you have to communicate with one person another, do stuff, a lot of communication, a lot of teamwork, and then we produce something. So it's like a lot of work with people. So I would say that you should like not forget that point, that you're actually like working with people, and then notice them like as people. So like if you see that they are a bit weird, maybe they're tired or something, you can ask like what's going on, what are you doing, or like if you see that they are rushing too much, doing too much stuff, and then you've been through it, maybe you're a senior dev, right? You've seen where this leads,
Yeah.
then you go and tell them, and obviously they're not gonna listen to you. But then if you continue maybe saying that, like, why is it like this, like that, and then maybe they'll slow down a bit and maybe do stuff. Or maybe if they are not progressing as fast as you might think they could progress,
Mm-hmm.
then maybe it's also like you say, like, hey, like, you should do this, you should do that. Like, if you see that, so for example, one of our testers, very good tester, but uh, we have a lot of I guess work, like sprint work, and then I very much want her to learn automated testing as well,
Mm-hmm.
so to increase her knowledge, and would also benefit me as well to learn that as well. So like then I see, like, she's always testing the story stuff, so then let's then create a meeting, you and me, we're gonna learn and then try to improve, both of us. So like actively participating in that, like if you see it, then try to change something. And that's what I mean, like from the team lead, like trying to notice it, like one-on-ones, I don't think are quite the corporate meeting of, so what are your OKRs, what are your KPIs, what are you doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yes, that part is important in some sense, but it's more important to create that trust, the communication, and then help from that point. So like if they are overworked, okay, let's see how we can minimize that work. Maybe we can optimize some of your processes,
Mm-hmm.
maybe help with that. Maybe, hey, like, we're both in Vilnius, we both like to, I don't know, go dancing, we can go dancing. Like, just some ideas, like to help from that point. So the whole team, like, I think should, yeah, just be like a team. And you can't do a lot of like process improvement without knowing the person, and then like what are the boundaries. And like as you mentioned before, like we all have velocities, and we all, like with Agile, we want to reach that certain point of, like, we can maintain this velocity for a long time. But I think how life works often is that we get a lot of unexpected changes, and then the velocity is never at some point. So we just
Yeah.
have to probably try to look for when it's a bit maybe it's too large, we could slow down. Maybe it's too little, we could improve. Maybe that's how to do it.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I wouldn't say that velocity shows productivity. That's what I'm also very much
Yeah,
trying to tell, whether I'm
yeah,
working with clients and so
yeah.
on. It's when I say maintain long-term productivity, it doesn't mean maintain velocity.
Or a number.
It's yes,
Yeah,
it's two different things. It's not only, burning the story points or whatever you're counting your velocity with, right? It's about making sure you constantly deliver, the working product that you were supposed to within the pace
yeah,
that it's both satisfying for the team and satisfying for the customer, the company, whatever setting you're at.
yeah. Yeah, from that, maybe it's a good idea to not to focus on the numbers and metrics that much, because I feel like I think that what we produce in the team with regards to the code is high quality. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, there are some steps that could be improved, obviously, and stuff like that, but I think it's quite good. But then the problem comes when you get a certain story, and you have to have the effort points added to it, but you don't really know the amount of efforts, because there's
Mhm.
a lot of factors that come into play. Like, you could say that, oh, this would take us like 2 days to complete, but then like it's way more complicated, so then
Mhm.
it takes a longer time. Maybe like it's not even the code is complicated, but perhaps like someone got sick, or like someone left and stuff like that, and it's very hard to like really tackle these numbers and effort points. So they are important to get a sense, but I guess it's also important to not forget that we don't really know. Like,
Mhm.
people are terrible at time management, and like uh, just coming up with the amount of effort that needs to be done. So just also could be a point of maintaining long-term productivity is like knowing what these numbers mean and trying to implement them, but then also remembering that, hey, like,
Yeah, we're not here for numbers.
yeah, yeah,
And
produce.
so, yeah. Um, So we talked about, some sort of a personal level, how I should notice my physical symptoms and that I shouldn't push myself too much. Then the team setting, right? How I can help, how the leader should maybe step in, or the other colleagues. I think the important thing for especially young employees or junior employees is also not to want to do everything at once. If you want to learn something,
Yeah.
learn this, then learn that, right? Also focusing. But then what could be, taking one step sort of a further, what could be the organizational role in this, right? Maybe there are something that the company should do, promote, inspire on to actually, well, maintain this long-term productivity, because it's probably good both for both, right? For the company and for the
Yeah,
employees, right?
obviously,
So,
It's a good question, because I mean, obviously, you don't want to stifle the developer, like the person who comes in and wants to do stuff. Like you
mhm.
don't want to burn like their
No,
excitement,
no, you don't
right?
do it, right?
Yeah. No, I think you're doing too much. Like
Mhm,
you don't want to do it. But maybe also like you should allow them, but like maybe see how it is, or like, because I think there are people who I think I'm one of those people who
mhm,
just is excited and then adds a lot to their plate and then fails to do most of the things that they added to it. And
mhm,
like it's in one sense it's good because you're doing stuff and learning and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, like the product is not as good as it could be. So perhaps the corporation, um, if they focus on stuff like roles, because I think in Reiz we have this like idea of roles, like, so I'm a full-time developer, right?
mhm,
But then also I can have different roles that do different things. So like a team lead, I could do some recruiting, I could be a speaker, like
mhm,
do stuff like that. So maybe then the corporation's goal is to like say, hey, like you've added too many roles, like,
mhm.
hey, like maybe you should not do this, or just choose one because we feel like you're doing too much, or like setting a limit or something. Not maybe a limit because different people can manage different stuff, but maybe just opening conversation of like, you're doing too much, or but in the same sense, like perhaps if you want to build like I guess a team, a community of people who are those that do extra,
Mhm.
then maybe also like during recruitment saying like, hey, like we want to the developer, but just FYI, like we expect a bit more, like doing some extra stuff, like again, like recruiting, maybe like writing something, or doing stuff like also creating that culture of like, yeah, we do extra, but not too much, so that we can maintain these people.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what could the corporation could do, like, because again, I really like the ability to grow at least here, and to try things, but also at some points you should like catch up with the person, like, so you've done this, how did it went? And they're like, I failed this, I succeeded here, and then I failed this. So we're like, okay, so maybe you're doing too much.
Mhm.
Then we can
That's
pursue.
probably a good indication.
Yeah, probably. So maybe that's what the corporation should do. Or just
Yeah.
think about it.
Uh, yeah, I know the companies are also promoting this, it's a, psychological safety, and just talking about it in the company. In other words, putting it sort of as a cultural thing, right? Just doing mindfulness sessions, and letting people explore their limits, and generally just having that in the air, that please avoid burnout, or we're not here to stress
Yeah,
ourselves to death.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah,
so
I think this is great when corporations try to do that, but I think the problem would come in when they force that on people, because I think having the possibility or opportunity to, for example, come and check maybe some experts speaking on it, or maybe having a in-house, say, a psychiatrist or something like that,
Mhm.
it's great. Until it is forced on people, because
Yeah, of
some might
course.
not want it, some might find it cringe and have different ways of learning it. But yeah, having the opportunity to do that, and like probably hearing what your team or individual people need is also great, like being able to communicate.
Hmm.
So I don't know how it is in different other companies. One thing I like it here that I can message our CEO and be like, hey, do you have some time to grab a coffee and to talk? And then maybe like when he's free, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe, but it will happen. We can come and talk and then discuss all of these ideas. So maybe that's also a good thing of just listening what the people, I guess, that do the work also need and
Feeling
focusing
the
on that.
pulse of the organization itself, right?
What is needed, like what kind of culture have we created, and like is it what we want, or what is good for the people? And in theory, probably if you're able like to create that sort of culture of openness, and then giving freedom to people to explore and to try and to stuff, maybe then that's how they are productive in the long term, because you can try this exciting, no more exciting, change, go into a different thing, exciting, do no more, and then maybe that's what long-term productivity is. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere that in order to stay productive, you have to have this healthy level of stress. If it's none of it, you're basically means you're not you're underutilizing yourself, right?
Yeah.
But it does not need to exceed probably some limit when the stress takes over and it becomes
Yes.
dangerous.
Yeah, so we actually had a learning session about burnout. It was very funny because it was like a week after I felt the symptoms. Like, what is for me? But
Right.
it was very
Good
funny.
timing.
Yeah, good timing, perfect timing. And I think the speaker, they are told that like stress is a very important part of the body. It comes from back when we were I guess in the hunter
Cave
gatherers and stuff,
people.
cave people. Yeah. It is very important part of our system, and it does help us produce. And in society, I think like our current society is like a lot of stress, but we produce. It helps us produce, helps us do great things. But the problem comes when you're unable to escape the stress loop. So like what you mentioned, like certain amount of stress is important and is needed, and it makes you do stuff, like action. It is important, but also it is important to escape that stress loop. So being able to unwind to a certain point. And I think how burnout happens is when you are stuck in that. You're stressed, and then you complete maybe some task, but then you're unable to escape that loop. You're still stressed, and then you have another stressful task, and then you're just out there. So it is probably important to learn how you yourself are able to unwind that stress. So that there are a lot of different like examples, of course, like physical activity, but there's a lot of physical activity you could do. So some go for walks and it helps, some go to the gym and it helps, maybe someone goes to
Yoga
some
class,
yoga class,
meditations,
meditations. Yeah, it could
whatever.
be anything. Like, but it is important to be able to do that, and most of the times that happens outside the work. And then so creating that healthy balance of like, so what is it that helps me unwind?
Yeah. All right. So seems like you also, talking a lot of, you had some trainings and did some research. So maybe because we're coming to the end of our talk, anything to recommend? Maybe you had a good book, an article, a blog, a training session, whatever, around this topic, something in between those lines.
Very hard to say. I've recently started going to therapy, so I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But not for every people. I do like. I don't know if I have a specific like books in mind or articles. I do think it is important to explore ideas outside of like your area. So like for me, I like exploring the philosophy a bit more, and the I guess the history of ideas. It's not anything like major, but this does help me then like combine those ideas into what I'm doing here. So if like for example you read a lot of like productivity books and like self-help and stuff like that, so maybe jumping outside of that and just looking at different perspectives. So not a specific I guess recommendation of a book, but maybe like switching genres a bit more.
Right.
So like you could read like agile books, right?
Mm-hmm.
Great books, but
Yeah.
then you could find similar ideas from different kind of book, maybe medical books, and then you could learn stuff. So I would say like, yeah, just switch context. Maybe you can get good ideas from that.
That's a good idea. That helps you, change context, change your line and your loop that you're in, as you're saying,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
That's a good tip. All right. Thank you very much, David, for sharing
Thank you
this. I
for
think
having
it's
me.
really important topic to remember in the organization and for person as a person individually, right? So I recommend our listeners to keep on exploring it. Of course, we're not psychologists or anything like that
Of
to
course not.
give
Yeah.
like top-notch tips or something, but I think it's good to be aware of it and notice it. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for bringing the topic, and good
Of
luck with
course.
the future endeavors.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Bye.
Thank you.